Today is Wednesday, November 3rd, 2021. Welcome to the Survivor Fans Podcast. I'm Joanne.
And I'm Stacy.
And this is our recap of Survivor 41, Week 7.
This episode is titled, There's Gonna Be Blood. That was spoken by Shan.
Mm-hmm.
We got a previously on Survivor.
We did.
Wow, okay. I think I know why.
Oh, yeah. Of course, they wanted everybody to know who had what.
Exactly.
Before this big old tribal council.
Perhaps Probst was paying attention to some of those tweets, and he realized that people were saying, we don't know who has what, because unfortunately, the vast majority of people don't have the advantage we have with Paul's visual roster.
Exactly.
So for us, no problem. We know what's what, who's got it, who doesn't.
Everything just by looking at the roster.
But for the other folks, they gave them a previously on, which I appreciate that. Good deal. So we got the Hidden Idol recap. We got the Advantages recap. Erika off to exile.
The big advantage, and Sydney saying if Erika has an advantage, it makes her dangerous.
Mm-hmm. So let's target Erika. And we got the new alliance that's coming together. And then we got the big Probst reversal advantage that we go over. So we rejoin Erika on Exile Island, night 13. It's stormy, it's rainy, there's lightning, there's thunder. Looked pretty miserable.
This was a one day, right?
Yeah, it's pretty much all day 14.
Yeah.
But we did have this bit of a section on night 13.
Yeah.
Which is where we
very
started.
Very little bit.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. So not only was she out there alone, except for the producer with the camera that was there.
Yeah, of course.
But she had to weather the storm without a tarp, and she hadn't relocated her camp anywhere, so she was basically just getting rained on. To her credit, she kept that fire going.
She did. I kept thinking, surely you could put some coals and move a fire over under some edge on the side of the
Yeah, have a backup plan. Maybe
rocks
she did.
over there or something.
Who knows? Yeah.
Maybe not.
But she made it through it, and she seems stronger for that, huh? She tells us that she's realized she can do it. She is realizing the authentic version of her, which is a very communications person thing to say.
And I guarantee you her self-talk was very different during the thunderstorm.
Yeah. Well, and she
All
admitted
night
that.
long.
She said she had worries last night,
Yep,
but then
yep.
she came out of it and got some sunshine in the morning, and
knew she was going to get to leave and go back.
Yes, and so this is the first chapter she tells us in a new book for Erika, and that's a very, in the past, we would have really focused in on that one scene, because she was at the peak of the island, on top of it, queen of the island, up there on top of that mountain, that maybe more like a hill, but she was up there surveying her domain by the time she was done with her time on exile, huh?
Yep.
I mean, that's one way to look at it. There's a famous scene with Earl Cole where he was up there overseeing everything that people refer to, so.
And then Ethan's trek up to the mountaintop. Okay. Erika tells us she's strong, she's good to go, and she's going to do what is best for her, which we'd already decided that she has to do it. Why would she go right back, be at a disadvantage by not having got to spend those 2 days with people she didn't know and do a challenge?
So we're coming into that challenge there on day 14, and Probst brings her back in. Everybody claps for her, and he's probing that emotion. He wants to get a little bit out of her.
Yes, and she tells him, well, I can't help but feel a little left behind.
Mm-hmm. I'd say that's absolutely worth mentioning.
Absolutely.
You got to play that card without...
I'd be like, somebody better be making it up to me big time.
Without overdoing it the way Angelina would.
You have no idea how much power I have right now.
Yes. Yep. And so they get to hear about changing history and losing immunity, and we get the flashback just like Christiana had predicted in her listener feedback last week. And Deshawn had a reaction.
Yep.
Not the game I'm used to, but he played it well. He ended well. This is the new survivor.
It's the way it is. You told us that coming in. Okay, let's get it done.
The literal wave of a relief that swept over Xander and Tiffany, Shan, Liana, Heather.
It's like, whoo!
Yeah. And we get to learn that it's the classic only use your feet challenge for stacking blocks and then planting a flag at the end.
Okay, I thought that I had chosen either Sydney or Danny to be at the top of that. So I was like, what? Danny didn't even do well. I thought, oh, he's got the better abs. He'll be better
core. He's got the most phenomenal core of anyone there. So,
and I thought, but Sydney's good too. So I thought she would do well and could win. But I really thought Danny would pull that out.
Had an advantage. The athleticism,
or even Naseer,
and the height. With the long legs, that would potentially make some of it easier, but that didn't turn out to be the case.
Oh, Ricard will be terrible. Evvie will be terrible.
Evvie was the first to get to the third level.
I was like, oh, man.
Followed quickly by Sydney and Deshawn and then Ricard.
I was like, I couldn't believe it.
Evvie even got to her flag first, but as we know from the history of this challenge, that flag undoes lots of work, and sure enough, she knocked over a block when she went to try to plant the flag the first time.
She never really did recover. Sydney and Ricard were just too close.
Correct. Yep. They got in, and then it was all about the battle between them. And we didn't hear anyone to the right of Ricard was completely out of it at that point.
Yeah, it's like, oh, we're not even bothered to show them. Deshawn and Danny, it's like, man, forget about that.
I was really surprised.
Yeah, me too.
Ricard being first to win individual immunity. Kudos, Ricard.
Yep.
Do you think it'll hurt him? A lot of the time it hurts the person who wins first.
It could, because in my mind, I'm not even thinking about him. He's no threat.
Exactly.
Not for physical challenges. And I totally didn't think Evvie would be either.
I was most surprised by how well she did.
She did excellent. And could have easily won that if she hadn't knocked a piece over, but
she came close for sure.
She didn't knock the whole thing down.
It was just one block. It just wasn't. There wasn't enough time to recover, I guess. Once.
Well, that's because Sydney was right there, and so was
Ricard. Yeah.
That was kind of a nail biting moment for me. It's like, oh, just a little bit more, a little bit. You couldn't tell which one. They kept flipping back and forth, and I saw Ricard's purple.
Erika tells us in a quick confessional on the way out of the challenge that her days as the little Luvu lamb are over.
Yeah, that was kind of...
She's on to bigger and better things.
It was appropriate, but I'd already forgotten about her because, she wasn't in the challenge or anything, and it just seemed to be a weak roar.
Could be telling that she got that moment.
Absolutely could be.
Back at Merge Beach on this one-day cycle.
They don't have a new name yet, huh?
Well, they weren't merged at this point.
I know.
So, no.
Well,
it's not done.
Half of them could have started.
And whatever was done just got undone. Yeah.
So
we're in the flippy-floppy stage right now.
Yep. That's what we'll call them, flippy-floppy.
There was a brief moment where they were asking Erika about her adventure on Exile Island, and we get her talking about how it was certainly character building.
Okay, what was the whole point of the bats hanging when they came back to camp? They made a point of showing the bats hanging upside down.
Don't know. Sometimes they just give you great wildlife pictures and they don't mean anything.
Okay. I was just curious if you read anything into that.
Nope. Didn't really even register for me. What really registered was Liana had an advantage burning a hole in her pocket. Yes.
She could not wait to use it.
Yes, and that's pretty much exactly the words that she said. The knowledge is power advantage, and she just is dying to apply it here. just like we thought would be the case. She's got a little bit of a score she wants to settle with Xander.
She does.
Danny struggled. He was not happy. Much like a lot of the super fans and the feedback that we heard last week, he was going on about, it ain't fair. It just is not fair. And he needed to get that out of his system. Deshawn was trying to rush him along, and saying, you got to let go of that. This is where we are.
Look, Jeff told us it'd be a different game. We just need to adapt.
And then Danny had more to say about how it was not fair.
Not adapting.
He said
it's not fair.
We were going to get a meal, and we had immunity. You didn't get immunity.
And they did have it for a little while.
Briefly, yes. Before
it
got yoinked right back.
Snatched it away.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't blame him for feeling that way.
So I was watching really close. I was like, are we going to see blowback on Erika? Is there going to be lots of Erika resentment? How's this going to go?
Well, that's what I was thinking, though. I think the blame will get put on Jeff more than Erika. Because, I mean, who couldn't understand Erika did what she needed to do for her game?
Right.
You can respect that.
And the way this went down and all these folks being vulnerable.
Together, I don't know what's happening back there. I had to protect myself. Sorry.
In any case, this after challenge energy seemed to really take all that focus off of her. Mm-hmm. Ricard, he seems to be champing at the bit to put Evvie out there as a target. And it looked like it was a plan that he and Shan had, because she was adding little supporting comments while that discussion was going on. And Deshawn was, let's see, they said, not Deshawn, therefore I'm great. Yes, let's vote Evvie out.
Well, and he did highlight that Naseer had an idol, but they already knew about it. Mm-hmm. So, but I thought, okay, I thought they could. I chose Sydney to go because I just thought she was. Mm-hmm. I didn't know why, really. Because I kind of thought they'd go after Evvie, and I really wanted Ricard.
I thought I had it figured out.
I know, you always do.
I said, Liana is dying to play the knowledge is power advantage.
It's true.
B, I'm confident, 100% Erika's going to break the glass. That's going to take Xander off the board.
And I said, she's got...
Therefore, she'll pivot and she'll take Naseer's idol and they'll vote Naseer out. So, that was my plan.
She wanted Xander's idol.
Yeah, it wasn't that clear exactly how much she was fixated there.
You are now, though, aren't you?
Danny, after that discussion about targeting Evvie, he takes that information to Liana, who wasn't in that discussion, and says, yeah, they're all on Evvie. And Liana says, well, she's not dangerous. She didn't really want to go that way.
Yeah, I wonder what she thinks about that now.
Well, and it's certainly interesting to see that defense, yes, and how it plays out. So Liana goes and gets her best buddy, and you thought I was thinking Tiffany, but no, it's Shan.
No, I didn't think Tiffany.
I meant you as in the general audience.
Oh.
It's Shan, because she wants to talk that through. And Shan tells her, look, Evvie's what ties Xander and Tiffany together. That's a voting block, she tells her, and we really got to head in that direction.
Were you surprised that Xander offered up his idol right off?
I wanted to make one comment before we went to that.
All right.
The answer is
make it.
Yes and no. But the one thing that Liana said after she had that discussion with Shan was that she was going to put her big girl pants on. She's going to get this done. Okay, yes. Here's Xander offering up information again. He's going to play his idol for Evvie. So I guess that's kind of his pattern.
Well, he's trying to keep his team. He's legitimately thinking of them as a team. Now, probably he doesn't feel that way after watching the last few weeks.
Yeah, contrary to Evvie, Tiffany, and Liana's approach to him, he's been pretty clear on supporting their alliance.
And that he totally trusted Evvie and Tiffany, just not Liana. And he was right about that.
I'm assuming they were real, but we saw tears of gratitude from Evvie because her heart sunk for sure once she heard she was being targeted.
Well, I think she didn't know that she needed tears because Xander was more than willing to offer it up.
No, it was in response to him saying that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and we hear Tiffany say that they can work with Sydney, so they decide they're going to pivot and target Deshawn, your USB.
The tears were guilt.
You're all out of sequence in the timeline.
No, I'm just responding to what you said.
Okay, just do that.
I will. So, that's what I thought. She knows the things she's done. And like she said, he's going to give me the idol. I don't know that I would have done that for him.
Evvie tells Xander about Liana's advantage.
Well, don't you think that he would not trust Tiffany as much? Because Evvie said Tiffany told her, but she didn't tell Xander. What does that say, too?
Well, he trusts Tiffany not to tell all his secrets, so maybe he's okay with that.
Right. Though he can't say too much because he's been, buddy-buddy with Naseer and Danny, and so, come on. But at least it convinced him that he knew he couldn't trust Liana, and his instincts were right on where that was concerned.
I did notice this nature clip that came after that exchange, which was a hornet's nest, and that did seem appropriate. There was quite a hornet's nest of activity going on as they were headed towards tribal council.
Okay.
We see Ricard and Erika talking, and then we see Xander talking to Danny and Sydney.
That almost...
And telling Danny and Sydney, I guess, that Evvie's going to be safe.
Mm-hmm.
This seemed a little bit bold and out of place, although it seemed completely in character with Xander blabbering. But what we really needed to know was there was a plan. This was a fake-out plan. This was to allure them in.
Well, and as Xander was saying, well, I want to be honest with you. She's not going anywhere.
Evvie's not going anywhere, and by the way, Liana's got this advantage so that she can steal an idol or an advantage.
Yep, so he's trying to gain a little favor there, which is smart.
Yeah, it was worth a shot.
But going back to when Ricard and Erika were talking, and she was just saying something, about trying to wrap her head around things. I don't know why, but in that moment, I thought, is he distracting her?
Is Ricard distracting Erika?
Yeah, distracting her from somebody else's conversation, or it just seemed so... They didn't seem really connected at all to me. And I thought, that almost just seems like a distraction or a formality or something. It didn't feel like a real exchange somehow.
I really just put it in the bucket of, here's Erika trying to make some connections, and we know a little bit of Ricard's history. He's had difficulty connecting with tribe members other than Shan. And so that was his chance to talk to Erika. That's Erika's chance to talk to him. So I didn't see it much more than that.
Okay.
Didn't really read anything nefarious into it. So Danny and Sydney tell Liana that Xander knows about her advantage. Yeah. And so she gets Shan to help her. They're going to read through the knowledge as power advantage and make sure that... Liana says, I got to make sure that Xander has it.
Mm-hmm. So she goes over. Why are you pretending that they don't know you have it? You know they know you have it. Anyway, she talks to Xander and Evvie, and they tell her, yeah, he's going to play it.
I'm going to play
Absolutely.
it for Evvie.
And then they tell us that we know she's pumping us for information. Yeah. She's trying to make sure. And I'm thinking, you are giving them too much information by trying to get information from them.
Yeah.
And
that plan seems to be working at this point.
Because my thought was, well, as of now, pretty much everybody knows what everybody else is doing.
Well, so they think.
Well, yeah, so they think.
Yep.
And I thought, goodness. Whew. What we were wondering, where was all the time going to go? You thought, oh no, this has to be a double elimination week, and
we got some really good time in camp after the challenge, so we could see all the the social interactions. Yeah. Definitely enjoyed
this. And there was
this.
certainly a lot going on.
Yes.
And people are still trying to feel their way because they don't know each other very much at all.
Yep. It's been disruptive to have it drag out like this. We see Sydney pleading with Xander. She realizes that she's potentially in trouble.
Yeah. Well, Sydney tells Xander if he didn't know everything, Sydney told him.
Yeah.
She told him who everybody's voting for. I thought, well, goodness. Again, all that information. So I wasn't sure what was going to happen.
Liana is excited. She's ecstatic. She can't wait to get to this tribal council, she tells us. And she's looking forward to taking that idol away from Xander. She's bringing the fireworks. She's going to be there just like Sandra and Parvati. This is her moment headed into this tribal council. It's going to be glorious.
Mm-hmm.
Bring your popcorn.
Which season would you be referring to? Okay. I have to say one area where Liana and Shan were paying attention was that Sydney was over talking to a lot of people, and they were made an effort to make her feel like she was going to be fine, and that she didn't have to worry.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
And I think they actually meant that at the time. I think they were so sure they were going to get Evvie that they're like, no, you don't know what we're going to do. You'll be fine.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Before the vote, you'll know. Because she had to do that before the vote. Before the vote, you'll know that you're fine.
It'll be clear to you why you're fine.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I do think that was genuine. So.
All right, Danny gets Prope's first question after they get fire, because Luvu had yet to be to tribal council until just now on night 14. Quite the accomplishment.
He still seems to be a little out of focus almost, because he's like, this is just so difficult. It's the most difficult thing I've ever had to do, Jeff.
I liked how he referred to it as one of the top 5 arenas that he had been into. So that was cool. And we get one of those classic Survivor moments. Bit of foreshadowing. Always makes you perk your ears up when someone's so eager. They tell you they're so eager to be at tribal council that they were Sydney says she was craving something different, anything, and she was just enjoying it all right now.
And loved all the personalities and joining together.
Liana says that 5 minutes after they got back to the camp, it was on. There was all kind of strategizing going on.
You know what was funny?
Madness.
Is I had forgotten that I even chose Sydney to go, because during the challenge I was cheering her on. I was like, go Sydney, go. And I was like, wait a minute. No, wait. If that happens, I can't get a vote off. Silly me. Okay, what else happened? Tiffany.
She knows how to get a moment. She drops the trust bomb. Yep, you don't know who you can trust, but you gotta trust somebody.
There's 12 people.
And Shan says it is an advantage-rich.
There's just a ton of advantages in this season.
And the shot in the dark that she mentions.
And she's setting it all up. And they can turn the game on its head. It's not just the relationships you got to work with.
That was one of the techniques they had used before. What Shan was doing was to mention, to acknowledge it, but then to talk about the importance of the relationships and how they can trump it, so that they don't want anyone to be using it. They've got their target set, and they don't want them to be encouraged in any way to go with a shot in the dark.
Well, and Deshawn talked about how he came into the game basing his gameplay on the social game, and then it just got all shaken up. So
he kept saying he wasn't complaining, but he was. And he was basically saying, Probe, you pulled the rug out from under us on this one.
Not complaining.
And you've undermined my value in the game. You have caused me personal harm in the game. But I'm not saying it's your fault.
So then Evvie, of course, pops up and says,
she's going to set the hook. This is the set the hook moment.
I'm fairly sure I'm going to be okay.
Yes.
My little friend over here.
Yep. Xander's got me covered.
Xander's like, yeah, I'm willing to give it to Evvie.
Well, it cut to Ricard then. And Ricard was saying something, and we all know, and then Xander reaches for it.
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
I have it. It basically shut Ricard down. He didn't have anything else to say.
All eyes went to Xander,
and
pulling something out of
Xander
his
says,
belt.
well, this thing is a burden, and I'm happy to give it away at this point.
Yep. Okay. He talks about how he trusts Evvie, so Deshawn had to say his piece.
One quick moment before that, you had Liana talking about how, as a YASA member, she was looking to protect them and looking out for the YASA members, and you get a reaction from Tiffany. She's like, well, you kind of left YASA behind. You haven't been so big pro Yellow Tribe for quite a while now, so a couple of days, she wasn't buying it at all.
Okay.
Yep, Evvie says I protected Xander, and then Deshawn quips in, drops a bomb on the discussion.
Well, and she was lying, and there are people there that knew she was lying. Liana for one, and Tiffany for another. Now, Xander didn't realize it, but they planned to vote him out. She lied to him the whole time. She told those girls everything from the beginning.
Yep.
And
she didn't have that long to tell him when she got back, but she did seem to tell him everything.
I wasn't going to let him go home. That's just, she was still pulling him in, which I just kind of thought, but that's not necessary. And once he watches his back and sees that was a flat out lie.
Even right here, there was a pretty big reaction from him when Deshawn asked him if he knew any of that.
Did you know she told me all about it?
I didn't know that, he says, as he turns and looks right at Evvie.
Yeah. And she does scramble a little. She's
the moment of the whole episode, the reason why this is now the best episode so far in the season, Liana breaks out the knowledge is power advantage. She's awfully smug.
I have an advantage and I want to read it.
Xander's sitting there holding his immunity idol in his hand, supposedly.
Mm-hmm.
She reads it out and turns to Xander and says, do you have an idol, Xander?
Yeah, I thought it didn't make sense if that's the real idol.
No, but you can have this fake one. Oh, goodness, we were hooping and hollering at that point, weren't we? That was great. He even made it. Awesome. They give us a flashback. He had even made a fake idol at an earlier point in the season, and they had it covered, and he used a piece of one of the other advantages or idol packages, so he had it wrapped up.
He may be young, but the young man came to play.
And we went back and just watched that part. Evvie and Xander are pulling off some really great acting jobs in the lead up to that.
Yes.
They really look like they're sweating it, regretting it.
Concerned.
They just blew up our plans. They were given all the body language.
They did. They did good with that.
Yes. No, but you can have this fake one.
And that he gave the idol to Tiffany. Evvie doesn't have it either.
Evvie decides, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and bust some chops at this point. Thanks, Liana. And Probst didn't let that pass. What is that about? Why are you thanking her?
Well, she's been telling me all day that I'm good.
I'm fine. And here she is taking the idol that Xander wanted to give me away.
Well, that highlights somebody about, well, you guys listen up, because if she'll do it to me, she'll do it to you.
Yes.
Which, of course, they all will. So, come on. But, yep, that was I would have pointed it out, too. Anything to create a little distrust.
Liana gave her don't hate the player moment. It's just part of the game.
Well, Evvie did let through a little smile there when Liana and Shan said, Evvie's got the idol. Well, Evvie's got it.
Well, Liana didn't know.
I know, and that Shan was saying, Evvie's got it. That's why he doesn't have it.
Yes, that Evvie has it. So
he gave it to her.
It's all working just perfectly at this point.
Well, and then somewhere along the way, Shan picked up that Evvie didn't have it.
No.
She said she doesn't have it.
I don't think that's necessarily how it went down.
Do you believe it did?
So Tribal Council goes live.
Yes.
And they've got to have discussions.
They're scrambling.
I think part of what happened was Danny. Danny injected some, hey, there's another way to do this, into the moment, because I think they were all in on Evvie leading up to that.
Yep.
And obviously this gave them pause, and they got to think about something else. And Danny was saying, we got to change this. We got to change this. We can still target Evvie if you want, but we need a backup. And
Shan's the one that said the split vote.
Well, I think that was in response to what he was saying, yeah.
And which, that was a good plan. And Tiffany could have played it, so I'm pretty sure Xander was so sure nobody voted for her.
I was busy taking notes while all this was going down, and I initially thought Heather and Erika weren't involved, but they were. They were included.
They were getting them going over, and even Heather
pulled in. And
I did not know that Heather spoke briefly.
Yeah, she had her moment.
Of nothing, but she's.
If you blink, you'll miss it.
Pretty much invisible.
Probst starts off by talking to Erika in just sort of a generic reference, saying, you kicked all this off. You made all this possible.
Yeah.
And then you hear Heather talking over it, and she's basically saying, I'm hungry, I haven't had food, I'm dehydrated, I can't think straight. But yes, she did have a little moment there in one of the live tribal let's get up and whisper to each other segments.
So, I don't guess they get any merge feast.
No. No. At
like,
this point, it seems clear that no. Yeah.
Sorry, no snacks for you.
And you think they're done with that live tribal, and Deshawn sits down, and then he's like, nope, we're not done. He gave props to Xander and Evvie and company for how they pulled all that off.
He was very nervous, which he should have been.
And then they get up for the second, at least of what we get, the second segment of the live tribal where they're talking about splitting it between Sydney and Evvie.
Yeah,
and
after
Sydney's
a while,
begging Xander to play the idol for her.
Lose track who's doing what. Mm-hmm. So it must have been really nuts in the midst of it.
Yeah, very much so. You ready to go?
You notice there was a lot of time that Erika and Heather weren't up checking.
There was one segment they showed us where they were sitting there.
She was chatting with
Jeff. The only
Jeff.
ones that were sitting and chatting.
Yeah. But, and I thought it was interesting that they sat Sydney away from, Danny and Deshawn and those guys. Wasn't she down on the
She was on the left with Danny.
Oh, was Danny over there?
Danny was left front.
Oh, okay. Okay. For some reason.
Sydney was left back, and Ricard was on the far left, I think.
Well, anyway, I am still, even after the vote, not certain who's really with whom, because we know who voted for whom. Do you want to list that?
Yeah, I thought we would go to the vote next as we're going through our recap.
Did you want to say something else about the vote other than
Sure.
the votes?
We get to see that Deshawn got his extra vote at this point, this being the first time he had been to tribal council since he had decided to risk it when he and Evvie were out there. So we see that he does have 2 votes.
Which he does play.
Yep, we find out later that he does. And so they go to tally it, and this is when we find out that Sydney decided to play the shot in the dark. And unfortunately, she's not safe, at which point she chucks it into the fire.
And I said, wait a minute, there's 12 votes, and she didn't have one, so that means somebody did use their vote. And then they showed it at the end that it was Deshawn.
We had an interesting exchange there where Evvie was begging Xander to play it for her, and Xander said no.
No, I thought Evvie said no, too.
No, she wanted him to play, or wanted Tiffany to play the immunity idol for her. Play it, she said. And Xander said, don't play it. Oh, trust me.
I thought she said don't play it too.
Nope.
We'll have to go back and look at that, because
we can, but then you'll see that it's the way that I'm saying. Yeah.
Well, I don't doubt that it could be, because I do lose track sometimes. There was an awful lot of notes to take.
Yes, there was. It was exciting.
So I'm not saying that I couldn't have missed that, but I'm telling you what I thought I heard was
Xander
her
said,
saying,
"Trust me."
No.
Xander thought he had it figured out. They still thought that they were going to put all their votes on Evvie.
Well, they sure thought she was going, because before it got to the end, when there was only one left.
Or Sydney, rather. They thought they didn't know that they were splitting. I think that was the main thing that Xander was counting on.
Yeah.
He didn't expect a split.
Xander said, "I'm sorry, Evvie."
Yeah, just before the vote came in.
Gone.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, the very last one.
He thought he had missed it, and then he said, see, I was right, when they all come in. And it turns out that Sydney's been voted out.
And you could have just as easily not. If Sydney had voted, you would have been wrong, because it would have been a tie.
Evvie didn't miss a beat. She was celebrating on Sydney's grave there. She's, oh my God, Tiffany.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the votes for Deshawn were from Tiffany, Evvie, and Xander. The votes for Sydney were Naseer, Erika, Liana, Heather, and Shan. And the votes for Evvie were Danny, Ricard, and 2 from Deshawn.
Mm-hmm. He wasn't convinced. I think he really wanted to go after Evvie, and he didn't think it was going to go that way. Yep.
Yeah, so I'm not sure why they put more votes. If they had tossed just another one toward Evvie, that would have worked too, but oh well. Now, were you surprised that Erika and Heather voted for
It was in keeping
Sydney?
With the little bit that we knew about how they felt about Sydney.
Yes, that's what I thought. That's one of the reasons I chose her, is because I thought, well, who would vote for this one, who would vote for that one? And I thought, well, they've already shown us that neither Heather or Erika liked Sydney.
Yeah.
They both...
To the point that Heather was actually playing mind games.
Exactly.
With her
I had a dream that you did this to me.
Yeah.
And that kind of stuff. So that's why I thought, oh, yeah, they'd vote for her in a heartbeat. They wouldn't care. They wouldn't hold on to the any loyalty to her.
Sydney did not take it well. On her way out, she said she should have kept her vote. I think she might have, and thinking quicker than me for sure, she might have realized that she could have forced a tie, and they might have pivoted back to Evvie.
Yeah.
If she had not gone with Shot in the Dark and she had cast her vote for Evvie, then she could have forced a tie, at which point she could have tried to convince them to throw all their votes onto Evvie for the revote.
Yeah.
And then she would have been okay.
And that probably would have worked.
I think it would have. Even though, like we were talking about, Heather and Erika had no problem voting for her, I don't think they would have had that much, because people wanted to save face. They didn't want to have been so wrong following Liana's plan, and this would have been a way to get some instant...
Though we know Tiffany and Xander would have voted for Sydney, and their vote had gone to Deshawn before. And at that point, if it was a tie, neither Sydney or Evvie would have had a vote anyway.
Right.
And so, it could have gone either way.
Yeah.
But I think she might have had a chance.
I think she had a chance. I think she realized that might have been part of the reason she was so bitter, because she was a bitter Betty on the way out when she was giving her last words. She said she was relieved not to be on that jury.
Have to see their faces
never
again.
see their faces again. And I know I'm being immature.
And I don't care. I think that's perfectly normal.
Yeah, sure.
It's just like Jeannie. I hope it rains on them. Yeah. I wish them well in the game, but I hope it rains on them.
So what did you think?
About?
Just overall, the episode.
It was
delivered.
Delivered, definitely.
Yes, jam-packed. No new confusing advantages or idols were introduced. Lots of social gameplay, lots of strategy, countermeasures, multi-level play. It was very entertaining. I enjoyed it. No, but you can have this fake one.
Well, what we saw was Naseer was not concerned because he did not play his idol. And Shan nor Xander used their extra vote, so they were fairly confident that the vote was going to go the way they thought, because they didn't utilize it. Even
though Xander was wrong about a lot of things, it ended up breaking his way, at least temporarily.
Now, if Shan had, because was it Liana that wanted Shan to use her extra vote for Tiff.
They talked about it. We saw them talking about it.
Yeah, and she said, "Oh no, I think we have the numbers." So if she had done that as well, then it would have been tied, and they could have probably gotten Evvie. So there's a whole bunch of things that could have happened, but they didn't. So that's the way it went down.
Yep.
I was not disappointed because I got a vote-off point.
Very nice.
My second one of the season. So
I got a safe point on Danny finally. I knew that was taking a risk, but I'm pretty happy with that too. Yeah, it was a good episode. Really enjoyed it. Next time on Survivor,
Shan tells Naseer that she wants to start with Evvie out.
There's a whole bunch of people she wants to get.
Yeah.
She needs a little revenge on Evvie.
And
because Evvie got the best of her and Liana.
And Liana's crying as she says, "Tiffany, right? We're going to get rid of Tiffany."
So basically going through lists as people say who they want to target.
And Danny's saying to Shan, "Naseer?" That surprised me. It's like, what? And then Naseer, Shan, Danny, and Ricard are saying voting Xander. Shan to Naseer and Liana, Heather. Shan is saying, "This is a hot, steaming mess." Tiffany and Xander each thought it was going to be them.
Yep.
Oh, no, I didn't think it was you. I thought it was me.
Then we get Tiffany checking in with Danny and saying, "It's me, right?" And Danny says, It could be.
In other words, I'm not telling you nothing.
Yeah, so Evvie and Xander and Tiffany still have a long, long way to go. And the question becomes, can they build any kind of competitive alliance? Can they work out numbers with anyone on their side?
I don't think Tiffany has any shot at this point.
No? You don't think they can overcome that bigger alliance?
I don't think Tiffany has, no. I didn't see anybody that was willing, and I don't know that Evvie does either now. Xander, I
still got an idol, got an extra vote.
He does. And we'll see how that goes.
And there's individual immunities to be won along the way, too.
And maybe he could get in with the guy somehow, but I don't think Danny is as concerned about a men's alliance now that he feels good about Shan and Liana being with them, and that they have a tight, I think in their minds, their final four. And so I don't think he's as worried about getting, females off, which they did get a female. It wasn't one of the ones he wanted, but they still have more females than males, so they're not even in that score yet. So, but there's so many different ways it could go.
Yeah, it's.
I still don't think Erika's safe at all.
No, Heather, I don't think so either.
Heather could go to the end just by getting taken
right
along.
Now. She's golden.
But
this is the place for her to disappear, and she was already completely invisible.
Well, here's what would get her out.
She's probably out number 5 the way things are going right now.
Is if she kept causing her team to lose. If they broke into rewards. She could. They could focus on her. Otherwise, there's bigger fish to fry. So I think she's put on the back burner for now.
Yep. She made it. She's
in
safe land.
And that's what we thought would happen
if they won their way to the merge. We figured she'd be in the clear. And actually, there's some degree of cover that Erika has there.
Yeah.
They're going to have to stick their neck out if they're going to overcome that tight alliance of Liana, Shan, Danny, and Deshawn. And so they're going to have to come up with something. And the question...
And Ricard.
Yeah, that's true. Ricard seems to be still locked in with Shan. We thought there might be some dissent there, but they seem to be still working together and still cheering for each other. And
I think Naseer's a part of that group too. I mean, he could flippy-flop, but I think he is part of that group.
He's going to still get blindsided and taken out.
And I think until they get the numbers, they're going to keep Heather and Erika as close as they can.
Sure, they got plenty. They've got Evvie, Tiffany, and Xander to get through. The catch is, will they wake up and see there's some other path? Are they going to catch on to that shadow that's there in Shan?
Yeah, it's possible that if Erika, Heather, Tiffany, Xander pulled in Naseer and of course Evvie, then they could get some control back.
They'd have to have. Shan has to do something, or Ricard with Shan covering. Anyway, something has to happen to get them to focus on that and recognize the threat. And right now, I don't think they're going to recognize it. They're all just looking and going, "Oh yeah, this is great. I'm safe for the next 3 vote-offs as we tear through Evvie, Tiffany, and Xander."
Yeah.
Assuming Xander's going to lose individual immunity.
You want them to think that way, too, till you get rid of some of the numbers. Because, like I said, right now, if they pulled over one other person, if Heather and Erika went with the group of the 3 that they're probably going to be targeting now, then all they had to do is pull over one more, and they got the numbers.
Yep. I don't think they're going to realize that, though, till it's too late. So it's exciting. I'm just really looking forward to seeing how far Shan's going to be able to maneuver through here, and what her plan is to cut Danny and Deshawn when it comes time. Because they're going to want to take a goat. If she is solid final 2 with Liana, they're going to want a goat. Someone like Heather at this point.
Truly. They made the Rebus puzzle a little harder this week.
Definitely, huh? Yeah.
Yeah.
How about a JSFL update?
I can do that. 9 people lost their USB 24. Get it right, and Tommy are tied in first place with 32 points.
Wow, already down to 2, huh?
Yeah. Well, for this
For
week,
now, yeah.
78 people earned a vote-off point for Sydney. Congratulations.
Yeah.
52 people lost a safe point for Sydney. In the side challenge with 29 points, Cold Mike and Jeremiah. With 28, Michael, Rebecca, and Stacy. 27, Jay Kindred and Parker. 26 is Justin and Randy. And with 20 points, Drew.
All right, good deal. Well, and we are at that point in JSFL. If you had lost your USB, your ultimate survivor bonus person, which could have originally netted you 24 points in the game, if that person that you had initially chosen before the season began has been voted out, you can select a new one right up until...
For a possible 5-point bonus.
Right up until the selection process closes next Wednesday.
Yes, you have until next Wednesday, 7:30 Pacific Eastern Time, 4:30 Pacific Time, to get your selection of a new USB in. If you choose, if your USB is still in the game,
and this is the most interesting
like Erika and Deshawn are,
yeah, for us,
we have to decide: do we want to stay with them?
Can they take it to the end?
Possible 24 points if they win.
Mighty tempting. How can you leave that on the table?
Or do we dump them and choose somebody else for a possible 10-point bonus?
Pivot, because clearly they will not be there. So who do we go to? This is the tricky part right here.
Yeah.
It's going to cost you 14 points to make that decision.
That's right. I was not planning, had not even considered changing him, but I don't know, after this week and him getting all that nervous, and I don't know.
He blew his extra vote the first chance he had, just because he didn't think that they had it figured out right.
But I don't know that Danny has any better shot than him, and
it's
hard. Like both of them.
Hard.
They both have great smiles.
Well, yeah, and sometimes you just choose someone because you want to have fun cheering for them.
True. So,
it can be hard otherwise.
But this will be the only time during the season that you have this opportunity. So don't forget to make your choice, and do not forget to hit the submit button. Go back into the picks screen for your for safe and your vote off, and make sure that the person you chose as your USB is highlighted in bold.
As such, yes.
And if they're not, something's wrong. Go back and do it again.
We got you, though. We got you covered. You're not quite clear. We're going to do a listener feedback show, and we'll get a lot of perspective from the super fans. We've been having amazing listener feedback shows. I know some folks are going to want to talk about this one. At least I hope they are excited about it, especially the ones that were bummed after the part 1 of this that left everyone dissatisfied. But I think we got some really good payoff here. I wouldn't have done it that way, but you know what? It reconciled quite well. Enjoyable.
Well, the reality is Survivor's never been fair. That's not what it's about.
Absolutely.
As Danny was like, it's not fair. Well, of course it's not. It's Survivor. It's never been fair.
As I was saying, we would love to have you join us on the listener feedback show. You can call and leave a voicemail 206-350-1547, toll free 844-643-8737. You can record your own audio. Some folks have been having some really good success with that, getting some really quality recordings into us. Attach that to an email and send it. If you're not quite ready to make that jump to audio, you can type it up and we will read it into the show on your behalf. The email is joanneandstacyshow@gmail.com. Feedback's due noon Pacific time, Saturday.
Oh, that's right. Time changes this weekend.
On Sunday. Just don't bring that in right now. That's not relevant.
But we gain an hour's sleep.
Okay, fine.
I had to.
Yes.
It was
Anything
required.
else?
No, I'm good.
Have a good one.